this is an opportunity for us all to invest in each other in what we like to call the cmBuilder community of folks that are trying to, try to advance things. What do you think, Tomislav? I'm going with advancing. No, that's I guess it's
go for it.
But no, the idea is here is to get together with some senior executives in our industry, talk about construction technology, maybe take some questions, chat. So if you're joining here, you can use the Q&A at the top, or you can just pop stuff in the chat. If you have questions throughout the discussion, we'll probably get them all at the end, or maybe try to mix a few in there if you want. Just quick introductions before we dive in. I'm Javi. I'm co-founder here at CAD Makers, a developer of cmBuilder platform. Our whole thing is about trying to democratize 4D planning and make it easy and fast for people to simulate construction projects directly from their web browser. So not just the tech ninjas, but everyone else. We also have Tomislav Zigo. Tomislav is the Chief Technology Officer and Vice President at Clayco, one of the largest and most sophisticated builders in the US. Welcome, Tomislav. Nice to have you. Alexis McGuffin is National Director of Digital Delivery at Suffolk, one of the largest and most cutting-edge builders in the United States, doing a lot of interesting things. We'll talk more about that. Welcome, Alexis.
Thanks for having me, Javi.
And Hammad Chaudhry is VP of Innovation and Construction Technology at EllisDon in my hometown, Calgary. Proud of that, just that's where I grew up. They're likely number 1 or 2 in largest builders in Canada. I'm not sure, but it's 1 or 2, and has offices overseas as well. Extremely impressive company. For the non-Canadians in here, I can speak as a Canadian, an amazing business. Welcome, Hammad.
Thank you, Javi.
And last but certainly not least, Michael Contreras is Director of Technology at Structure Tone Southwest. He's based in Texas and part of the Stowe group of companies, very large and impressive global builder. Welcome, MC.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep it light on the panelist introductions because there's LinkedIn and everyone can go and check and creep on you and check out. Everyone's got amazing resumes here with lots of experience. I want to spend most of our time diving into the meat and potatoes of this topic around the future of construction technology. We want to cover a few things: management stuff, strategy, talk about how we got here, BIM, VDC, laser scanning, kind of the state of the union of where we're at. We'd like to talk a bit about robotics and what the future of that might hold. Of course, AI, everyone wants to talk about AI, and data. And then if there's time at the end, we'd also like to look at this idea of build or buy or invest, which is Hammad and Alexis can talk a bit about that. But it's always been build or buy, but there's this new partnership model that started to sprout up, which is pretty interesting. And then if there is extra time, material science type stuff, so mass timber, I bet 3D printing, these types of things are pretty interesting. But let's start with what we all are hopefully here for, having an amazing panel like we all have today, which are leaders of large organizations trying to drive big change. So everyone on this panel is mandated to build out technology strategies, implement technologies within large organizations. I'd like to start with Alexis. Can you talk to us a bit about the Suffolk journey, building a team, trying to implement new technologies, trying to get value out of that, trying to scale it throughout the organization? What are some of the challenges have you seen? And then after Alexis, we can kind of go around the table from there.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Javi. So just a little bit about Suffolk, just how we're set up. So we're primarily a construction management firm. It's our core business. But we have several other businesses under the Suffolk umbrella. I think it's important for this discussion to just kind of mention them. So we have Liberty, which is our self-perform, focused on GRs, general requirements. We have Suffolk Capital, which is our investment vehicle created to partner with real estate developers. We have Suffolk Tech, our venture capital platform, funding the next generation of companies solving built environment challenges. We have Boost, our tech accelerator for the built world. And we have Suffolk Design, our in-house design and design management team. And those are all separate companies under the umbrella. So over the last 5 to 10 years, we made strategic investments in those, as well as other tech process and people, and a lot around data and data strategy. So 7 years ago, we hired, at least to our knowledge, the first construction chief data officer, Jackie Chin, and she's built a team of over 35 data engineers, and we've built our data lake, and we're doing, predictive analytics, and hopefully you can touch on more of that later. We've also built our mission control platform, which is think like a CIA style command center for project management. This year we began building out our AI team. 7 years ago, we doubled down on the control model concept, building control models. Think LOD 400 that we build to provide one source of truth to the field. So no more using the architect and engineer models as backgrounds and kind of like hoping for the best. And then our team, digital engineering, so not your standard VDC team, we're an integrated part of that whole like tech ecosystem at Suffolk. And then just, you asked, right? So a couple of things like what I'm focused on right now. So the business of the business, I consider our department a small business within the larger business. So all the things that come with that. And then also how to align my department's strategy with the overall company strategy around AI and machine learning. And I am not an AI expert by any means, but I work with our AI department to help build the repository of 3D data from which we can automate design, because that's one of our goals, our strategies is to automate the design process. And then I can dig in a little bit deeper if you want me to, Javi. You tell me when to stop.
Yes, no, yeah. I know you had some insights on kind of some of the challenges there. So.
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of building the department, typically the two kind of challenges are people and strategy alignment. Right. We can kind of call the strategy piece like the North Star. On the people thing, so, over the last year, I've interviewed a lot of people and hired some really strong talent. And this is kind of my call to the audience in the industry. So too many people out there with VDC titles have become one-trick ponies. We can't be sitting in offices, or at home spinning models and doing clash detection. I'm happy to see Hammad smiling and right? Right. And it's destroying our reputation in parts of the industry. So we have to be obviously technologists, but beyond the 3D world, right? We have to be builders. We have to understand how to build. We have to be project managers. We have to know how to drive a process. And honestly, we also have to be good sales people. I'm very passionate about the sales component of this. And, I tell my team all the time, you need to have your sales hat on at all times. And I've worked with some really technically brilliant people who just get exhausted from having to explain and convince and try to get paid for what they do. And I think we need to flip that 180 degrees. And we need people who get excited about the thrill of the hunt, who get excited to win, and who making all of those people in the business and in the industry and clients change their mind and see the value and get excited about paying us for what we do. And the last thing on the people thing I'll say is no egos. So I can't stress that enough. It's obvious. However, there are no egos on our team. And if we all focus on what's best for the business, we all win, right? So I'll just kind of leave that there because I can't not say that. And then the other thing, so the strategy alignment, the North Star, I'm pretty fortunate at Suffolk to understand very clearly what Suffolk and John Fish's vision is for technology. That's not always the case, especially in a company that's publicly held with a lot of different shareholders. But we need to understand, like people in our roles need to understand exactly what the business wants and what they want their tech identity to be, not just the brand, right? Because sometimes people have a brand that they can't back up or that they don't want to fully support in execution. So do we want this to be a differentiator? Do we want to just be like a solid, kind of status quo? Do we want to be leading edge, bleeding edge? Right? Because then that helps us set our strategy. We are techies. We always want to do the coolest, latest, newest things. But if the company doesn't want that or won't support it, there's a friction that will then lead to failure or at least struggle, in my experience. So, we get a lot of challenges, be a zero cost department, but also lead in innovation, have talented staff available all the time, but carry no bench. We need people to be fully billable, but also pilot things and do R&D and do training and everything, right? And we can do all this. We just need to kind of understand the constraints and the goals of the business so that we can plan, our team, our talent, our strategy, our process, all of that together. So.
That's great. I would like to pass it to Tomislav. Alexis mentioned some challenges around people and organization building. I know you've built quite an impressive team over the last number of years. Do you want to talk a bit about your journey and strategy and setting up an org to do this type of stuff?
Listen, Javi, absolutely. Except I have to say, I have nothing else to add after Alexis because she's spot on. I mean, I think, listen, the story of Clayco is somewhat similar in terms of the structure to the story of Suffolk. Obviously, we like to pride ourselves as a design build firm, and then within that umbrella, you have other subsidiaries that are full-fledged companies. But when it comes to, I think we share similar pains in common, and we are looking at a similar interaction between the people, process, and technology, and we are trying to kind of normalize that equation in the best of our abilities. And at the end of the day, it's not, senior people on the team, me or business. It's really us working as a team and having the broad understanding why is the technology differentiator. And I'm very passionate about defining technology within construction. I think there's a lot of ambiguity what technology means, and it spans everything from putting the tablet on your desk all the way to doing aspirational intelligence for now. I'm not going to go to AI at this point. So I kind of undertook a path that was somewhat oscillating. We at some point we dove into having our VC component that was pursuing innovation, and on the other hand, we had VDC as a catch-it-all bucket for technology, and that wasn't sustainable. The gamut of what we do, different specialties, influx of data science, influx of robotics, influx of IoTs, and things that we were trying to lump under the umbrella of digital transformation or Industry 4.0, kind of created a situation where these acronyms that really come to us from marketing effort, emerging with some of the companies, didn't really do it. So last year we underwent transformation of VDC into overarching umbrella of a practice technology. And practice technology, as it focuses on design technology, which is a huge component of our business. We are a company that has over 500 architects and engineers that are either externally facing or they are really supporting our design build projects. We have an extremely robust reality capture team that is basically a profit center for the business. And needless to say, there is obviously BDC team that at this point, we are trying to make more operationalized, more kind of project delivery focus, which is always under the gun to be the profit center. They are the billable part of our technology. And then on top of it, I think we all experienced an enormous amount of growth over the last several years. Everybody thought COVID is here, things are going down the drain. It was a completely opposite picture. And we realized with so many people moving between different companies, maintaining a cultural identity and know-how and pairing cultural identity with the technological savviness cannot be left unchecked. So technology and process implementation team is one of those new emerging teams for us that really is there to make sure that when a rubber hits the road, that we are there in the trenches, whether it's on design side, whether it's a pre-con, whether it's a project delivery, that we are delivering technology by people that actually practice in the industry. I mean, I like the way Alexis, states we are all techies, but I think what I really particularly like about our approach as well is that we are all techies that, just like Alexis or myself, come from doing our work as part of the industry prior to discovering or rediscovering this love for technology and trying to make a difference. So within all of that, there's a lot of work to be done. I think our current focus with all these changes is really toward cementing down the processes and making sure that we can clearly communicate how do we start a project, how do we deliver a project. Everything else that fits within this process really revolves around the data and this kind of arduous exercise of mapping the data, understanding where data is coming from, having this kind of ingestion consistency, and then how to use it downstream. I think is going to keep us busy for quite some time. I know we need to get over the finish line sooner. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a pressure, and there's another thing that we are battling kind of at a conceptual level. Software industry moves at their roadmap pace, which we already hate. when somebody comes to me and wants to deliver, and they say, first they ask me to read the safe harbor, and then they say, this is on our 3-year roadmap, and I know that my jobs are going to be finished in 18 months. I cannot wait for them to be aligned with me. So there's a little bit of a pressure I think we are all exerting on software providers to kind of get in sync with what we need so they can help us actually transform our organization in a much easier way than we are trying to do. So that's where we are, Javi. I mean, plenty of work.
That's fantastic. I think you had a couple really nice nuggets there that I locked into, and one of them talking about kind of that idea of how the VDC and modeling has kind of evolved into a more general technology role and embedded much more in the strategy of the overall department. I'd like to go to Hammad next. I know your background came up doing some of that work as well, and have kind of grown with the business and grown with the technology to now lead a large team with lots of people doing lots of this work. Can you talk a bit about kind of where we are today with regards to BIM, VDC, laser scanning, prefab? Is that just table stakes, or is there still opportunities for those areas to improve? Can you talk a bit about that, and maybe also a bit about how your team's structured and how you deploy some of these technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that Tomislav and Alexis both mentioned is the same thing that we're pushing and trying to get our organization towards, which is VDC beyond 3D and some of those base kind of coordination levels into a broader construction technology kind of focus. And so the state kind of our team kind of going back over the past 20 years was a very interesting story. So EllisDon got a Frank Gehry project, the Art Gallery of Ontario. And to build that thing back then, they were using CATIA or Gehry technology software, which really pivoted and launched the BIM group at that time. And from there until let's say up to 2014, 2015, the BIM and VDC group were generally doing a lot of the innovation. And that's kind of been mentioned. But around that time, somehow there was this split or fragmentation, which Alexis alluded to as well, of, we got into this pigeonhole for some of the folks in the industry. But a lot of the people who kind of progressed, if you will, from the VDC role. So, folks have become, directors of branches of life sciences or equivalent in our organization, or into operational roles, PM, super, so on and so forth. Saw that as a piece of their knowledge, right? A piece of information or skills that you have to address construction management. And that's kind of the same way that, we've looked at it within our team now, and hence why we've got such a focus on Contech, is because, VDC, in my opinion, is now kind of table stakes. You don't need to sell it the same way. There's still obviously a lot of areas where you do got to pitch it and add it as innovation to get all the value that we would want, whether it's from the design upfront side, pre-con, or into some specific use cases. But really now where that value is going to be driven is going to be coming into these essentially point solutions and siloed pieces of technology being brought together into a digital construction strategy holistically. And that, unfortunately, may not be what some of the folks who have become super, super detailed within one aspect of BIM or VDC would want to see or hear. But it is actually pretty good, I think, for the broader business now, because we have folks like, myself, I'm still focused on VDC BIM, but the wider use of technology in the business. But I have peers who are on the client side now. We're looking at getting projects off the ground. And so a lot of the appetite, I would argue, for the table stakes side is there, but you don't need to focus on as much as you do on the bigger value proposition of how are you combining these pieces. And I think Alexis mentioned, and maybe Tomislav, you too, how do you integrate those pieces into the core construction processes? So scheduling, QA/QC, even some of the field management layout side. And really not looking at it as a separate piece. Sure, you need somebody to be an expert so they know about ACC and the workflows and some of those things, but really what we need is the ability to look at it collectively. So you don't want somebody sitting in the corner of site just looking at models all day. Now they need to be integrated with your superintendents, with your PM supers, which is, again, what we've always wanted to do I think, as an industry, but we haven't been able to realize that until now. And I think since COVID, the shift in construction technology taking a little bit more of a front and center role has helped, propagate some of those kind of areas of focus. So an example on our side now is how do we look at these upcoming projects holistically and bring in our VDC team with what would have been our in-house team to deploy our tools that we've developed in-house, Gate3, our project management system, as well as FieldWire, which is our document control system. And now they're looking at integrating with our VDC team, with kind of our data team and the operations to be a little bit more cohesive in that sense. And I think also, it'd be tough to maintain some of these projects without that attitude of we need to do some of these things as just a way of business now. So an example I'll give is kind of the time to value versus ROI. And one of the things we've noticed is, maybe cmBuilder is a great example of that, is do I need to really pontificate the ROI? You do need to provide some of that, because if you're spending money and you're taking away from your profit or your GCs or so on and so forth, why are you doing that? But if their time to value is quick, where the superintendent, the PM, or even your team is saying, wow, this is actually going to be saving me a lot of time and allowing me to deliver this complex job or focus on some other tasks, then all of a sudden you can change that conversation completely, as opposed to doing some of the firefighting or hand-to-hand combat we used to do with VDC in the early days of, hey, Javi, let me convince you why we need BIM on this job and why we need to do those processes, towards more of a, hey, Javi, let me bring in MC and his feedback on why this platform was so helpful and why we need to have this cohesive digital construction strategy.
Oh, that's great. A couple good things there. So all three speakers have talked about that idea of transforming the technologist from the office person to getting on site, understanding means and methods, how you build, all this kind of stuff. And I know MC, before we started, was complaining about removal of the buck hoist on site, which means you probably were on site, which means you've been taking the stairs, which means his legs hurt so much he could barely sit in that chair. So I know you're dying to talk about bringing stuff to site, and I'd like to double click on one thing Hammad said around robotics. So I know MC, that's been a big focus of yours this year. When I started getting into this game, we thought a lot about robotics, right? The promise of robotics has transformed other industries. We even got our own robot and did all kinds of stuff for robotic milling and welding. We thought we were going to have an impact there. It was part of our pre-teen company exploration phase, where we're just trying lots of stuff to see what happens. We did learn some challenges in that regard, but lately it sure has seemed like it's turned a bit of a corner. I know Alexis and the Suffolk team are involved with rugged robotics, dusty robotics, so layout, Canva's doing, mudding and wall type stuff. Jailbot from Hilti's doing inserts on site. You got robotic tying, rebar tying machines, these types of things. Can you talk a bit about your journey so far on the robotics side? Have you run some pilots? Are you seeing some benefits? Maybe you can talk a bit about that, MC, and just maybe talk a bit about the future of robotics in construction. What do you think it might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it. I'm a field guy, right? So that I think we've gotten three really good kind of insights of the future of construction technology. StructureTone's big push has been, let's bring all of that closer into the field. And that's absolutely where my focus has been. And robotics has been one of our biggest area of opportunities that we've been looking at. So, we've recognized that there's been either a labor shortage that's on us as we speak, or that there's a labor shortage that's looming right there on the horizon, right? As we look at the number of masters insert trade here that are on our job sites. If you look at their average age, they're like me. They are gray in their beard or in their hair, and they are about to age out. And so we are very much concerned about, what does that look like? And so there's all sorts of ways to address that, right? There's, of course, the education push, and everybody's got their ways of approaching that. But for us, innovation and technology is a way we look at upskilling, either that be through technology as a way of putting tools into our existing labor force hand, or through augmenting. And what are those tools and trades that we can augment, and what are those repetitive or dangerous tasks that are easily augmented or replaced, right? So you mentioned, dusty, rugged, layout is something that we have absolutely been running some pilot programs on. That lends itself well back into the VDC realm. They require really good coordinated sets of drawings. They require good, takeoff points at your job site to make sure that they are laid out correctly. And it requires, skilled people that are managing and running those machines as well. So, we're not replacing, job for job. We are definitely upskilling the labor force that's out there, and we're getting, better information on the ground. No longer am I just laying out a wall or laying out some sort of a device. I'm actually putting information down there as well. If we take rugged or dusty, in addition to laying out a wall, I can add information to that layout. Stuff like at a door, I can print out the hardware set, so I know what am I putting at that door. In addition to, denoting an outlet, I can add information to that outlet. At what dimension, what type of outlet, what trade is that outlet. I can add all sorts of things. Finishes. I mean, the sky's the limit. You can print whatever you want. I mean, and this is one thing that we're finding as we bring technology into the field. This is a conversation I was just having last week with, with a fellow peer, is you don't know your use cases until you find your use cases. So just bringing technology into the field, you start discovering all these additional use cases. With the layout robot, we found an additional use case of what if we start printing, specialty light fixtures. So there's cases where we've got a designer that's got some specialty light fixture, and we'd like to see what is that going to look like in the room itself. Well, yeah, that's a perfect use case for that. Or we've got, let's think about a hospital or a lab environment where we've got people that are going to be actually interacting in that environment. Let's lay that out. Let's get the people in there and actually walk and interact in that environment and go, oh yeah, this doesn't make sense to do that. Well, the ink is easily wiped up, and let's reprint that, relay that out. All these use cases that, a lot of times you wouldn't even think about until you start using it. And so that's what I'm excited for as we talk about the future of technology is not what we're designing for right now, but the use cases. Once we start getting this technology out into the field, what you're going to find out, right? When the iPhone came out, nobody knew all these things that we're just going to go to our pocket and pull out our iPhone and start using today, right? I mean, no one knew that we're going to have a flashlight in our pocket. Just, right now, I'm going to have a tape measure in my pocket all the time. I'm going to have a 3D scanner in my pocket all the time, right? I mean, these are just all the benefits that we never knew 10 years ago when the iPhone first hit the market that we were going to have at our fingertips. And that's what I'm most excited for. As I talk about upskilling, the data, Alexis was talking about data mining and the data pools that Suffolk is looking at. I mean, yeah, you think about all of the information that we're gathering right now. What is that going to be able to unleash on our projects in the future? And what are the questions that we're going to be able to start posing and start mining? What are the juniors that are walking onto our job sites right now going to be able to start asking things that we would have never thought of in the past? And what is the knowledge that we're going to be able to start transferring to them? Those are the things that I think we are really, really going to benefit from. The reports that we're going to walk into in the morning and be able to understand what are we going to look at our job site that morning. The ability to go and sit with our trade partners and really deep dive into what's going on in our job sites. That's the data that we're going to have at our fingertips. That's what I'm excited for. That's what's coming. And that's what that we're seeing, definitely hitting our job sites right now.
I like it. On the robotics side, does anyone else want to add things you've done Hammad, Tomislav, Alexis.
I'll
I'm
just
looking-
second what MC said real quickly. Like I don't think we're going to be replacing labor. We don't have enough, right? So how are this is a solution to not having enough people and keeping costs down, right? So I think it's going to be a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I don't want to sound skeptical, but I want to be pragmatic. I'm a firmer believer in controlled production environment and site awareness than robotics for the sake of robotics. We tried. I think if improving your means of production means bringing automation and robotics, I think that's a spot on. But we all engage in our jobs at a different level. So one thing is, what does it mean for a GC to bring Dusty on the job site if I'm not self-performing and I have my trade that really benefits from it? Is it for me to pose with the Dusty Robotics, or really for trade to embrace it? I would like to see trade embracing me and me empowering the trade and working together. So I think we are still just scratching the surface. I would rather see us as an industry thinking about that controlled environment that will enable prefabrication or on-site fabrication. Then I'm gonna have two spots that can maybe run for 1,000 yards, and I have 4 people following them. It looks great, but at the end of the day, this is where actually a real ROI kicks in. On how much is that automation helping us? I think there's some really great examples, like Hilti is a good one, but even that one requires a really careful project planning, because if I'm not pouring slabs before I bring Hilti robot in, Hilti robot is having a really hard time shooting embeds on the mud slab. So I think we need to be better planners and then start thinking about bringing automation that will benefit from our better planning.
And if I can add in kind of, it goes back to the earlier conversation of the whole BIM VDC side of things. So you look at Dusty Robotics or Rugged Robotics and the layout one, you need to have some sort of basic CAD BIM models to get there. You look at the theory behind VDC, the whole idea is to what Tomislav's saying is we want to be able to preemptively plan and get those issues ironed out so we can get things like multi-trade racks, prefab, all of that happening. And so one thing with robotics that I want to hit on is, because I always get this on every webinar, is give us names of companies or cool startups. Yeah. So you can look at Suffolk, you can look at Clayco, and of course STO as well. On our side, we saw the same ones that you've heard from these folks, but something else that came up was Raise Robotics. And I guess I want to put that out there because it's a really unique one. They're looking at a focused piece of labor on site that's very hard to the labor shortage standpoint. It is hard to attract people, tell them, hey, you're going to hang off a building and install curtain wall anchors all day. And now, you can bring a robot in to do that with some skilled labor to help drive that. And I think we're just getting started. What's happening is the importance of BIM VDC with project controls, earned value management. Now with robotics, AI coming in, there needs to be a shift in how this work is happening and being procured to get those outcomes. Otherwise, it's going to be the same thing of we're trying to get to DFMA or design for manufacturing and assembly, but none of the pieces line up. So you're forced to try and make it work. Same thing with robotics. Sure, you can throw a robot on site, but again, to Tomislav's point, that upfront planning piece is what drives the ability for us to get towards that industrialized construction.
This design automation is the key, right? What Alexis mentioned and others have said is like, if you don't have good inputs, you can't produce. And what is everyone's problem on projects? You don't have enough time. So if the answer is spend more time designing, it's going to be a tough sell. So we got to reduce the life cycle of design so you can get better information to the field faster, so you can stack these things up. It's turning into a manufacturing problem than it is a construction or stick build problem. So that's really great. If you were playing a drinking game at home about how long it took us to get to the AI topic, you can rev up your beverages. So here we are, meat and potatoes. We're doing it because we have to, apparently. hot button topic, AI, everything. AI is really about data. Obviously, most people would say that and would understand that. I know Alexis has some interesting stuff to talk about their approach to data lakes and insights from data, stuff like that. I'd like to start with Alexis, maybe talk a little bit about your thoughts around AI in construction. Are we going to have a whole bunch of prompt project engineers? Just kidding. Asking the AI to find the detail in the drawings. That's my idea. Someone should do that. But anyways, Alexis, can you talk a bit about your approach or your team's approach to AI, data, insights? Where are you guys at with that?
Sure. Yeah. So, something we recognized a while back, right, is the rate of technology development is too fast for a project team to keep up with during the course of their project. I mean, 3 to 4+ years long. And they're typically too busy to ensure that they're using best practices, lessons learned, using SOPs correctly at every single stage of the project. Like, for example, right, they're only buying out concrete like once every 3 years. It's really hard to get very good at that very quickly at that cadence. And so, we have 40 years of data, right? 40 years of project data. We know what, when, how projects go wrong. And we have really good SOPs, but this doesn't mean that those things we're getting to our project teams at the right time, especially with new hires, right? Like brand new, throw them on a project and here you go, right? So we thought, like, how do we create a platform that can get project teams everything they need just in time? So that's like our mission control platform. And it's got it's people, process, tech, right? But it's got 2 fundamental components, dashboards and tripwires. So we've got live dashboards pulling from over 35 applications into one interface that project teams can look at that, almost like you're driving a car, right? And it's like all that information right in front of you, updates every 10 minutes, costs, schedule, safety, labor, even morale, right? Like employee surveys go on there. And we have project dashboards that roll up to regional, that roll up to national. And the point there is it gives our leadership exactly where they should focus their time and attention on a week-by-week basis, right? And so that we can deploy resources to areas where we see issues. And so now that we have that, right, the second part of that is building out the tripwires, right? So this is where the predictive analytics come in. We build predictive models based on what's happening on the project and project characteristics. What are the predictors for the project outcomes, focused mostly on safety, cost, and schedule. Just, I guess, like a quick example. So if we know that a lead superintendent change, if that happens twice on a job, we're likely to have a safety incident 6 months later. Then we can mitigate that risk. We can add extra safety staff for the next 6 months before anything happens. So our models are based on like and then also swarm. So, right. So when we know that happens, we go and we swarm the job ahead of time. So today our models that we have are based on the execution phase. And then the next thing that we're looking at right now is the planning phase. So can we predict project outcomes from project setup, right? So that's what we're focused on right now with our data. And then from that, right, we're trying to feed all of our construction data upstream into Suffolk design, right? If we know where the design starts and we know where it ended in construction, right, we can pull all of that up front and we compare an architect and an engineer with an AI platform to, just like you said, Javi, to compress the design duration and to get good drawings, right, that we can actually build from. Because we all know, right, like the project management struggle is I was given this design and I have all of this open risk, right? All of this either conflicts, errors, gaps, all this stuff that it's my job as a project team to find while I am procuring, getting in the ground, getting out of the ground, right? Making sure no one gets hurt on my job. And if we can just kind of capture that up front and build that into the design, then we think, right? Like we think that that's kind of the direction, the future.
Nice. I like it. To get the data, that's the hard part. It sounds like you guys are already.
Yeah, well, we're 10 years in, so this is a commitment. This is a journey. It's an investment. It's not something that you can just say, "Hey, today we're going to have a data strategy." Like we're a decade into this. It's been a labor of love for sure.
I'm sure scale is a factor too. I'm going to Tomislav next. I mean, you guys are probably each doing hundreds of projects per year, is my guess, and mission critical projects, like different types of typologies. What are you thinking on your side, Tomislav, for this type of stuff, AI and applications?
Yeah, aspirational. So here's. I mean, I think we were fortunate in a way that because of circumstances that kind of brought several players in industry together. I think Suffolk was one of them as well. Somewhere around 2016, 17, we tried to all rally around this kind of, you should call it Predictive Analytics Council or something like that. Josh Kanner started his team. Now there are new metrics. But that actually exposed a little bit of a dirty secret of our industry. First of all of us techies, if you will, thought that was the best idea of the sliced bread. All right, we all get together, we're going to anonymize our data, we're going to bring this together for the sake of advancing industry. And then lawyers got in between. So we all kind of took out different ways because, in probably 10 years ago, most of us thought that our data is a gold mine that we are sitting on and nobody wanted to share. I think industry is shifting now. The knowledge that we all sitting on a gold mine shifted because we started to think about data seriously. We introduced the infrastructure in terms of data lakes. We started to enable data streams. When the data governance came into, in a big picture, it was like, oh, this is what we have. This is what we need to do. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think it would be fair to say that at this point, Clayco is on a good journey that allows us to bring certain components of predictive AI, computer vision, whatnot, closer to those that are actually consuming the data. Primarily, we are looking at field and cost modeling, safety and cost modeling. That's our primary focus. And planning gets in the picture. But in order to do this, I think we all need to, this is not just Clayco's story. I'm going to just say, I think we all need to pivot around certain things that will make us better. And I see this, especially when I talk to colleagues from overseas. Standardization and adoption of standard on this continent is dismal. We don't have a strong governance. We don't have agreement, even exchanging data between us and multiple clients and multiple design or project delivery partners can become a total nightmare. At the end of the job, we also don't agree who owns the data. Are we replicating? How are we assuring this data consistency? What am I losing when I'm replicating data or trying to tell client, I'm sorry, I cannot work on your platform because I don't have a full functionality of a common data environment. You are making me use your platform. Thus, I'm losing my leverage. So I think as industry, I think we have bigger problems to solve. Tech is here. Tech will keep evolving. I think we are at a good point where our maturity level allows us to know how do we need to form our data team? Where does data team live in terms of organizational structure? How does it interact with the practice technology? How does it interact with information technology? And ultimately consumers of the data. But I think we have still a lot of ground to cover in order to assure that we are all starting from a kind of same stepping stone, which is the standardization. And then also, how do we share the data? I think at this point, data sharing between us, clients, our subcontractors, our design partners is the biggest sticking point that I see. Those are the headwinds that we are facing.
Yeah, Tomislav, Javier, if you don't mind me jumping in, this is a passion of mine, and that's fundamentally, I think, where you see everybody having a hard time with AI. And Javier, I think you said you opened this can of worms, right? So where is your data gathered, right? What is the source of your data lake? What information is it trained on? Fundamentally will shape your organization, right? It's almost like what are the ethics of your organization? What are your values, right? Because that is what's going to shape the outcome of your algorithms. And I think that's the other thing that scares me of AI. And I think as this gets more and more exposed are the hallucinations. And what is that going to do in the industry. And as people start looking at what's going on out there, and people start, understanding that I'm going to base my decisions, my business decisions, on what is fundamentally the best guess, right? What's the best, what's determined to be the best from that data set, not what is the best answer, right? I mean, that's fundamentally could be scary, right? I mean, go ahead.
Can I add just one more thing that I've also experienced recently? When it comes to data science and improving our analytics and predictability of outcomes, we're also facing something really difficult. We are competing from the same labor pool that tech industry is competing. And starting salaries within construction companies versus Googles of this world and Metas of this world are not really working in our favor. So you have this huge talent drain, and I'm fortunate enough, I work with some rather smart people that are blending computer science and construction management degrees. And my heart is just bleeding when I see these young people just like, sorry, I can't match. I can't. And they just take off. So I think that's another problem we need to fix. How do we incentivize? Money is not everything, but how do we incentivize young people in terms of the personal growth and motivation to change this industry, so they are not abandoning this industry from a get-go and going and working for some tech startup that, 1 out of 100 will actually succeed.
Interesting. I would like to give
Here.
Hammad a chance. One thing that I think was touched on, I want to double click on, is this idea of data ownership too. We were recently talking with cmBuilder with one of our larger customers that does lots of airports, and they called me in a panic saying, wait a second, do you have any AI in there or LLMs and stuff? A lot of our airport, like, data ownership for your end client is such a key part of the deliverables, right? Who owns that data? What do you do with the data? Was it anonymized or not? Does it have PII, like personally identifiable information, in there? These are tricky problems to solve that, a bazooka can, like OpenAI, just bazooka the entire internet. And we don't have that ability as a construction company. Like what OpenAI just scraped the entire internet. Maybe Hammad, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe your guys' perspective? I know you guys are dabbling in that world just like everyone else, and just want to give you a chance to respond as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. From the data side, I think it is definitely a can of worms for sure. Even before kind of the AI piece, everybody can probably relate to, I'm going to draw it back to BIM, trying to get a model from a design team. Oh, wait, there's proprietary information in there. Sign 50 NDAs before we give it to you. Now with AI, to your point, man, the OpenAI example scared the crap out of everybody. The Tomislavs and the equivalents in our industry and every other adjacent industry of, shoot, if my team's using this stuff and there's proprietary information in there, what am I at risk for? And now to your point, we're going on a job site, say we're throwing on a platform like Timescapes that takes photos, does kind of computer vision analytics. Now, is the client okay with that? Some of them may not be at a level of sophistication where they're asking those things, but others are. And so, because again, similar to the other folks on the call, we've had a data strategy for over a decade now. We've been in a little bit of a better position to proactively look at some of those things. So we have legal data security reviews that go through a lot of those pieces. So if a client comes up, generally we'll be able to answer a lot of those questions. But where it gets tricky now is some of these clients, especially up here in Canada, probably similar to the US, as our federal kind of government and public procurement agencies now, they're going through a big, how do we handle this? How do we actually make it so that this project data that we have ownership of during construction can be used in these AI models? And so if we're uploading something onto Provision, which is one of the legal contract review softwares we use, is that going to be there forever? Can they, go back and pull things out, or is it, to the earlier point, anonymized to a point that it won't cause risk? That level of sophistication, I don't think is clear in the market yet. And that's what we're working through as an industry. On our side, again, like we have a large insights and analytics team. They're building stuff in-house as well with our AI models and our data sets that we have. And then we have this whole construction tech ecosystem with startups we're working with. And it is a little bit of an interesting time because I don't think one size fits all. And I don't think, again, all corporate policies are going to align. So what maybe Suffolk is doing and what Clayco is doing and what, STO is doing, what EllisDon is doing, they may have similarities, but they're going to have differences that do come back to MC's point from the cultural from the value standpoint. And I think that's kind of that piece. The other thing I want to add in, Javi, is just, it's kind of funny. AI is soup du jour right now. But it's a soup du jour that's kind of revolutionized a lot of things because beforehand, before this whole ChatGPT thing and the LLM came up, we were looking at it from, crunching data sets or looking at a lot of stuff that would take a lot of time. So automatic clash detection, or looking at drone photos or 360 photos, comparing it to the model, so on and so forth. But now that it's gotten to that generative side, now that it's actually being able to retain this information, use it for future responses, and then potentially be amalgamated, that is something that we haven't dealt with. And the risk nature of contracts and construction, without any of this soup du jour being involved, is already pretty hard to get some of the outcomes that we want. Is, we have the technology, we have the people, but we don't have an industry that can share that risk in a way and embrace it. So that's why we have all these contract types. So I guess what I'm getting at here is it's almost like we need a new revision to contracts and procurement that can now address the fact that we have these tools and technologies, as opposed to maybe doing some of those awkward dances that we have to do, around the industry.
That's really great. I want to go right back to you, Hammad. We've only got 5 or 6, 7, 8 minutes left. I want to give you a chance to kind of, you mentioned a couple products and platforms and things you partner with. Build versus buy. Everyone's talking about build versus buy. We have 4 companies here that all probably have software engineers on staff that can build stuff, right? Let's presume that Clayco has the budget to build software if they really want to. I know EllisDon has done that. I know Suffolk's doing that. I'm guessing STO does that as well. But then you always make an assessment, right? Build versus buy. That's been pretty standard. We have this new arm here, build versus buy versus invest, right? So this idea of like, well, I'm a big builder, we could build software. It's hard to compete, as Tomislav said, with Google and Meta and stuff like that. Perhaps there's we can't build everything. There's so many things to build in construction, right? We've talked about some of them today. So maybe we partner, right? Maybe we invest. I know Hammad and Alexis have some direct example, and Tomislav teased that you guys looked at this as well. Hammad, can you talk a little bit about how you guys look at the whole ecosystem, contact ecosystem, partnerships, maybe what drove you to that decision and what you guys are doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the exciting part too for the industry now is, that evolution of point solutions towards a little bit more of a marketplace type of solution, and that to now looking at it as an ecosystem, which you look at build, buy, partner. Where do we go? When it comes to that whole kind of viewpoint of the ecosystem, I think the project management side has been the most saturated by far. But now all these other focus points are coming up where it's kind of becoming a whole picture. That's why the ecosystem approach is so important. So when it comes to that decision for the business, it's not like one size fits all. Some of the things need to be complementary to what our strategy is. So again, we have Gate 3, internally built project management system, and then we have FieldWire as our document control management system. So what kind of tools do we need to build to augment that versus where can we actually buy off the shelf? Because maybe it's a great tool, but it's low impact to any kind of digital strategy and having ownership of potentially that versus now the partnership and more strategic alignment side of things, where it would take us maybe a long time to be able to build something of that scale, that level to get into our business and then obviously into the marketplace. So when you look at it from our tech stack, we've got several kind of clusters we're working through right now. I can give you an example based on the last year. Some of the kind of build by partner metric framework, that's where cmBuilder came in, for example. So a couple of years back, we were looking at cmBuilder at that time to help, get further into the 4D, and it wasn't at a level where we felt comfortable with it. And so we tried a few projects and said, okay, maybe we'll revisit this a little bit later. So that's an aspect. You need to keep a pulse on things and be able to say, okay, maybe this isn't the time. And then we came back, I think it was 2 years later, Javi, looked at it again, and probably within 30 days, 60 days, it was like, okay, perfect. This is exactly where we need it. Now we can move this a little bit further into our tech stack. We're just going to buy it. We're not going to go compete to try and build this out from scratch. And then there's other things that came up, like timescapes, for example, or provision and the link and site link, where they came through our accelerator or partnership programs. And are we going to go and build a time-lapse solution and monitoring computer vision solution? Well, it'd take us a lot of time, a lot of resources. We've already got a lot of energy on a different standpoint. So why don't we partner where we can to get some of those efficiencies? And then the last thing is obviously the field. MC mentioned this as well, but what is the knife in the neck for the field? And if you keep hearing things, they may not articulate it as clearly as, hey, Tomislav, I need a delivery and logistics management platform like StruxHub. They may just say, Tomislav, I'm having issues trying to manage my deliveries, or my contractor's always late to bring it. I don't know how to back charge them. And it's up to us to try and pull that out to be like, okay, well, this is where that fits into our strategy. And now do we build, buy, or partner? So I don't know if that's enough of an answer there, but I do want Alexis to hop on and add her opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I second all of that. I'm not on mute, am I? No. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right. So, right. So it was just kind of like these struggles and these issues that we decided to kind of separate out the investigation of the tech ecosystem and the selection of how to and where to invest with Suffolk Technologies. And I think one of the challenges that we've all struggled with is that we can't support this on our construction management margins. Like we can't support, the reviewing the the startup ecosystem, selectively investing, right? Guiding tech development, investing with our clients, providing design services, like all of that on the backs of our projects. And so, for us, we have really, really focused on the investment side. But even with that, we still go through kind of that decision tree process. So we have Edify, which is our in-house cost estimating platform. So I guess similar, right? You guys, at EllisDon did something similar. We've now since spun it out, right? So now we sell the product. We're doing that also with Edge, our short-term planning app. It was like, well, the product we want to use in the market's too expensive. So maybe we can actually develop what we really want in-house, and we'll spin that out, create a profit center. Obviously, we buy things, Autodesk Procore, right? Kind of the easy choices there. And then like the investment and the partnership piece is really big for us too. There's just so much going on. There's no way that just an insulated construction firm can kind of make sense about all the things happening. And with our Boost program, we also want to say and develop in the tech development, like which direction it should go. And we all know that, like you said, Tomislav, there's all these brilliant people, tech people creating software applications, but they've never really been builders, or not many of them have been builders. They don't understand the contract restrictions we're under, the field experience, like all of that. And so we need to tell them that and guide them and so that their product actually works well for us. So we've attacked it in those different, ways.
No, we're near the end of the time. Tomislav, did you want to add?
I'll try to be really quick. To me, stepping in the dev or not to dev is like walking through the minefield. ROI needs to be there. Objective needs to be there. And then at the end of the day, the word ecosystem came many times into this during this conversation. I really like to see any dev within a framework of a larger ecosystem for an organization that knows how to benefit from connectivity within the system. So I'll stop here because I'm still not convinced what is the right path to take. Tomorrow we'll be smarter than we are today. How about that?
I like it.
Let's hope so.
Before we let you go, one question from the audience here that we get. So Sam Brennan asks Alexis, what technology are you leveraging for AI and analytics? I know you're building some of this in-house, but is there anything you can share around what technology you guys are using?
I saw that, and I don't know if I can. I saw that question. It was like, I don't know.
I really want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Do tell, pray tell.
Yeah. Can I just respectfully
Yes.
ask that maybe you just go online and check out our boost program in Suffolk Tech and what we're investing in, and that'll kind of give you some insights.
Perfect answer.
Yeah, perfect.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And then a question from me here. I don't know if we're going to be able to answer that question. So to preserve the data, companies are developing their own AI systems instead of using open AI. So I think maybe the question for you is, you're using your own data, correct? Your own data. Are you also using some of like third-party data like OpenAI or others when you're developing these models at the moment?
No, we are, and forgive me, I'm having a brain lapse moment. No, we're creating simulated data. Sorry, right?
Synthetic data.
Thank you, synthetic. We're creating our own synthetic data. We're not using data from other outside sources.
That's a question. That's a question that Laura should be answering.
Yeah. Simulated synthetic data. That's pretty common. Any Hammad, MC, anything to add on that about use your own data or do you use third-party data? No.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, in-house having the data lake over the past, 10 plus years is an advantage, but I think a lot of the gang will allude to the same thing, right? What models do you use? Do you use some of the open source ones? And that's why it's so important to have people on staff. So yeah.
This is a game that the biggest will benefit the most for sure, as in terms of unfair advantages. If you're EllisDon, Clayco, STO, and Suffolk and building hundreds of projects a year, you're generating a lot of data. If you're doing 5-6 projects a year, it's gonna be hard to compete. But I get the sense that that's probably something on everyone's strategic board. I want to pause there and stop. Thank you so much. We went over a little bit, but I think it was fantastic. I think we could keep going probably for another hour or two, I'm sure. On behalf of the cmBuilder community, I just want to say thank you, Tomislav, Hammad, Alexis, MC. Really appreciate you taking out your time in the middle of the day here. We had 140 people show up in the middle of the day. It's really great. We had another 150 plus more that signed up, so we'll send out the recording. But that was really fun. The future is friendly. It's going to be pretty exciting. And we're all part of this construction industry, so let's make it happen. We'll stop there and thank you very much.
Thanks so much for
having me.
having
Thank you
us.
all.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good day.